What's going on, everybody? This is a massive one. Come on. You know, that's why you're clicking on it. Everyone wants to hear everybody talking about this episode. It's massive. What's going on? It's episode 3 of the Kenobi series. If you're brand new to the channel, hey, there I am again with the same outfit on. Subscribe. Do me a favor. Let's get there. We didn't get to the 50,000, so no pie in the face. But if we get to 50,000, we'll come up with something new. Subscribe to it. Will you like, share, do all the rest of it. All right. Look. This is the best episode of Kenobi thus far. There's no doubt about it. This is the reason we signed up for this show. This is the reason we hoped the things that we would get, and we did. There's a lot in here that was absolutely spectacular. Some stuff in here didn't love. But, again, if the first one I gave a 95% out of 100, this one I give a 97. With the second one coming in at around 75. So it's a vast improvement from the second one. All right. So because I'm back at home and because Celebration is done and because I'm not at a hotel room, I'm going to go back to kind of what I did for Boba Fett and for Mandalorian and all those other things. Moon Knight. Let's start with this. You know, look, here he is, Kenobi, and he's meditating and he's trying so hard. The recap, by the way, the recap that they had in the beginning of episode 1, they did not show that at the screening at Celebration. So rewatching it, it's even more clear that eventually Qui-Gon's going to appear. It'll probably just be at the end of the series. But he's trying. He's contacting him. He's like, come on, man. Help me out here. We got issues. We got big issues. I just found out something. Anakin's still alive. Help me. And he's trying, he's meditating, and he's in peace on this ship, trying as hard as he can. And then there's just this back and forth with the piece of Kenobi and the metallic, machinery putting Anakin together. And the last shot of episode 2 was so good, where it was just daunting and eerie and creepy, and to carry on with that. And he's feeling it, man. And this is that shot that we saw in the trailer when his arms and his legs and everything we're putting back on. And then they just go one more over and they're putting the thing around his neck. It was a lot more, I don't know not vile, but just like it's disturbing, and the way that he was put together in this as opposed to episode 3, which still was cool, but this is something a little bit more. You see the pain and the agony and just what he's become, and obviously this is my favorite shot, and probably what I'm going to put on the thumbnail. This was my favorite shot because you actually get to see Hayden Christensen as Darkseid Vader and the helmet going on, and just like he said it, inside of the interviews when they gave him. What is this? This is a new Vader. This is a Vader that we haven't seen yet. We've heard about, we haven't seen. Just pure viciousness, the pure terror. And you understand, and we'll get more into it as we get farther into the episode, of why Ewan McGregor was saying that he was legit scared and had fear come out of him when he was in these scenes going up against Vader. You felt it. It felt like a horror movie at some points in the way that they shot it. And that's the way Vader always felt in episode 4. But as we get to, this shot is just fantastic. It's one of my favorite shots in anything Star Wars related thus far. And he's, it from the second we see him, we're like, okay, so we're going to get this version of Vader, and he's ready. And I have to give Hayden Christensen all the credit in the world. I believe that this is him in the suit coming out. When he gets off that platform in Mustafar and he starts walking, that felt like Empire Vader. Like the way his movement, the way that just the way that they shot him coming out. My eyes were locked on Vader on every single thing, because it was just like, okay, does he feel like that Vader that we ultimately see turn into, in 4 and 5? And the answer is resounding yes, at least on my end. I don't know how you guys felt, but for me, it was just absolutely incredible. We get to see the castle. These are things that we were hoping to see more of in the films. We get to see it. He's in the castle, and Reva pops up to him, and basically she's trying to, this was to me hilarious, where she's trying to blame Obi-Wan for the Grand Inquisitor, and she's just, for her, she just gutted the dude, And she goes, well, Obi-Wan's going to pay. And she's like, I don't care about the Grand Inquisitor. Shut up. It's about Obi-Wan. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm off the hook. I don't need to worry about it. But the thing that needs to be talked about here, that everybody was waiting, and even when they asked Christensen about, is James Earl Jones coming back, he said no comment. Well, James Earl Jones is back. There's no doubt about it. But they did something to his voice. And I thought that they were going to, and maybe they did do this. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out more as the interviews for this episode start to come out. Some people are saying that they did something similar to what they did with Mark Hamill for Luke. And I didn't like that because I think it sounded too robotic. And I guess if they did it here, it served the purpose because he sounds, again, at least to me, he sounded about as episode 4, episode 5 Vader as you can get. There was no traces. My big concern has been that James Earl Jones is a legend. Love him, and again, I agree with everybody who said if he wants to do it, he should do it. I agree with you. All I'm telling you is that in Rogue One and even Rebels, you can tell that it was a more seasoned James Earl Jones, an older James Earl Jones, if I can. Than previously. Did not pick that up here. Whatever they did with the lines or the voice, everything, it sounded. If they can do this with James Earl Jones, I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm never going to say anything again because this was a terrifying Vader. This was the Vader that I thought we were going to get, hoped we were going to get, and boy, do we get him. And he's just on a tear to get Kenobi. And I loved this scene. I thought this scene was so well executed, and I thought Reva played it really well here. And I will say, again, just briefly mentioning this too, and a lot of other people have said the same thing, just for everybody out there, it is okay, for no matter who it is, whatever character, whatever actor it is, for you to have thoughts, and if you do it in a respectful manner, concerns about performances, whether you liked or didn't like a character. That's okay. What is not okay is hate. What is not okay is messaging people who are acting and working and doing these things, and for what? To make them feel bad about a job that they have because you didn't like their particular choice, and being racist is what you were doing. So there's a big difference for those two things. And I just want and kudos to Ewan McGregor for his video, and for Disney for addressing it in the manner that they did. But I don't want to get into the whole thing right now. I'm just saying that I think, again, just criticisms are criticisms, and you should respectfully criticize anything that you like or dislike, but just do it in a way. People are people, man. It's especially the days that we live in. Anyway, I don't want to get preachy. I apologize. But getting into the this scene, which I thought Reva played very well, and I liked what she's doing in this episode overall, because we start to get a little bit more of what her goal is. She wants to be she wants to be the new Inquisitor. And he says as much. He's like, I know what you're doing. You want to be the number one. You find Kenobi for me, and you can be the number one. I still think there's something else there. She has more of an agenda, but at least that's what we're led to believe, is that she wants to be the Vader's number one. The shots of Vader, man, like these shots overall of Vader are just beautiful. I mean, his outfit, the costume, everything they got with him, these shots that Deborah Chow shoots him with, menacing, absolutely menacing. And then you get to that shot of him on the deck with Leia now, and Leia comes in, and they're having and Leia, I'd never had an issue with young Leia. I thought she was, I didn't love the chase scene that she was in, but that wasn't really necessarily her. Some people were complaining about the fact that they thought she was a little running away and doing all that stuff, that she was a little too much. She's a 9 or 10-year-old kid. You have a kid? I like the way they played her. I thought it was great, but they have a very different relationship now, and she's accepting him. He's telling her about the light and the dark side and all these things, and I thought it was a nice little moment between the two of them, and she's just like, she just wished she wouldn't have ran away, and he's like, don't worry, we're going to get you home. He fixes the droid, which this was a sweet moment, and they arrive on the mining planet. And so far, like I said, enjoying all of this, everything that they're setting up so far, because we're getting in these, 10 minutes, we've already established that Obi-Wan is devastated. Obi-Wan can't believe that Anakin is indeed alive. We find out a little bit more about Reva's motivation of what she wants. At least that's what we think. That's what Vader thinks. And we find out that they're now set on this mining planet to go meet their contact that they were told they were going to meet. So as they get there, it's as you go back and you watch the episode for a second time, which I've already done, I'm sure you've done, the droid that they wind up becoming pals with is already there. They could have avoided all the conflict with the stormtroopers that are about to come up had they just talked to this big hulking Lou Ferrigno-like droid. But Obi-Wan likes to sneak around. He wants to get past the stormtroopers. He does. There's a little bit more conversation with how the planet itself used to be kind of, flourishing in the Empire. You start to establish more. There's a lot more of the world building inside of the connecting from Revenge of the Sith leading into this and what we've seen so far, and more of the we're not transitioning into the Obi-Wan that we know yet in episode 4, right? He's still this hardened he's bummed still from what we saw in episode 1 of the series. We saw him defeated. He's still defeated, but it looks like it's like he's climbing out of it a little bit, even though he got knocked down a peg, because obviously with the return of the idea that Vader's alive, and that's weighing very heavily on him. But I think Leia's bringing something out of him. Now, there are going to be, I think, fair criticisms to a lot of this, where it's like Obi-Wan and Leia now are spending a lot of time together. And to also, I didn't realize when we talked about it in the last episode, I had said, well, he never calls himself Obi-Wan, so maybe she doesn't think it's him later on in episode 4, but someone pointed out, and they were absolutely right. Luke Skywalker, when he rescues, I'm here with Ben Kenobi. She goes, Ben Kenobi, where? So you can play that as if, well, yeah, she's excited to see Ben Kenobi because this is the Ben Kenobi that rescued her all those and spent all that time with her years ago. But maybe she just would have addressed Obi-Wan Kenobi a little bit differently than just, you served my father in the Clone Wars. But I think you got to get over this stuff. I mean, and I'm talking to myself as well when I say that. You got to get over these little things, and there are going to be these things that you're going to have to say, well, that doesn't necessarily tie into it. And we're going to have to get over it. I know. Some of you, it's going to piss you off, and you're going to go, well, it doesn't. If now Obi-Wan got his ass kicked by Vader, and he wasn't but the learner. He was the master clearly when he came in here, and when he says to him in episode 4, your powers are weak, old man. He already said that the years have made him weaker. So are they retconning? We got to get over it. I know. Listen, I'm not telling you have to enjoy it, but you got to get over it if you want to, because there's going to be these little things that happen as you make more and more content inside of the television universe. It just is what it is. All right, let's get back into it. So as we have this was an interesting part here, because when I first saw it, and I zoomed in for you guys too, as he's walking, he's talking about more so about I like these moments between the two of them where they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to meet their contact, and the contact isn't there, and they think this was one of the things that I was like, okay, Obi-Wan, and I know he's lost his patience and things too, but like he doesn't want to. He usually would be the one, stick around, wait. They'll be here. He doesn't trust anybody anymore. He's like, no, people are terrible. Let's get the hell out of here. And Leia's like, well, they might show up. So this shot here, when I initially saw it, I was like, okay, well, who the hell is that? Are we led to believe that that's going to be Qui-Gon? Probably not. And then they turned it around, and I'm going to show you zoomed in. But initially they turned it around and they showed, and I was like, oh, that's Anakin. But I was like, oh, it's Anakin all scarred up and a mess, but it's not. Like, look at that shot. I thought it was him. Like, oh, that's clearly Anakin, but he's seeing these visions of Anakin. And what I took out of that is back to the Padme conversation at the end of episode 3 of they're still good in him. And that's why, like, people, I never once questioned the fact that he always thought that Anakin was dead. He thought he burnt up. He thought he was toast. He didn't think he was Vader. He didn't hear about him. He didn't know. He's been hiding out. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. So that didn't shock me. So it pissed some people off, and it didn't. It made sense to me that he thought for a while that he was dead. He was gone, and he now has this conflict because at some point you would think, maybe not, but you would think that after, like, he's got to have another confrontation with Vader where he's probably going to get the best of him this time, concluding the master part of it. That's part one. The other part of it is he's got to believe, and how after this confrontation today, at last episode, I don't know, but he's got to believe at some point that there is still good in him. Because that's the conversation that Vader has with Luke in episode 6, where he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. And I assume we're going to see that. It would make sense that we're going to see that, but that's what I think the symbolism of this particular shot is. It's seeing still the good in him. This is before he's got to go up against this horror creature he goes up to, against a little later. And then there's a shot of Reva now, and this dynamic of what's going on. I think this is the best work that Moses Ingram has done thus far, with the stuff where she's showing up, she's getting in there, and there's this dynamic between her and the other Inquisitors, and there's this battle of power now. They don't know what the hell happened to the Grand Inquisitor. They don't really care. They're fighting for power. She's like, I talked to Vader already, and he's like, oh, you did? Like, yeah, I did. I got his cell phone number. What do you got, dummy? His email? His Hotmail address? Not me. I got direct contact with him. So all right, fine. We'll go to the mining company. We'll go check it out. You didn't. I guess if he says go, we'll go, and they go. And there's no one at this contact. Obi-Wan's like, people suck. And this is kind of the part where it's funny. I don't mind the overall story portion. I don't like a particular part of an execution here, and you probably, if you watch me long enough, you know what I'm going to say. They're waiting for this train to come. Here it comes. Here comes Ratface Magoo, Freck, or whatever his name is. And he's got, I think it's Zach Braff, and I get why you put Zach Braff. You know, he loves Star Wars, and he wants to be a part of it, and you should have him involved. And I think that this is Zach Braff's voice. I can't stand when aliens have human voices. It drives me crazy. It takes me out of it, and it makes it's so the stuff that I didn't like about some of the prequel stuff. I know there's so many Dexter fans. I know. But hey, Obi-Wan! And then you get Lady Proxima. Oh, hey, Solo! It just takes me out. The Trade Federation. It's so much more effective. Like there was the Phantom Edit, I think, was one of them when they put the voices like Jabba. If Jabba's going you're like, oh wow. If Jabba would have been like, all right, Obi-Wan, or come on, Solo, put him in the Rancor pit. You're like, it just takes it away, and this took it away from me. It not as bad as those particular examples, but it was like, I don't know. It definitely, the character, this Empire sympathizing mole, whatever he is, and fitting enough, gets him in there and says, come on in. I'll give you a ride. Come on. Well, who you got? Yes, this is my daughter, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, he tells Leia not to say anything. You know she was going to. This thing is creepy looking, right? Oh, if he just would have, it would have been interesting if he had the subtitles, and then, you know, whether Leia or Obi-Wan, whoever was, they both could understand him. Who cares? And I did love this moment where he knows right away this guy's a Empire sympathizer, gets on. And now the stuff I did like, where there's a lot of sweet moments here, and we learn stuff about Obi-Wan inside of these conversations, you know, stuff. And I know this happens after the stormtroopers get in, but she asks about her mom. Did you really know my mom, and all that? And there were some sweet moments. He's like, it was just a story. He didn't want to get too much into it. He doesn't want to tell her too much. And I think that was a smart move by them, because then you're really starting to get into some tricky conversations for canon and all that. But Obi-Wan had a brother. Doesn't remember him. Doesn't know who he was. Can't figure it out. And it's this kind of heartbreaking thing of what happened to all the Jedi. It's that they take them at a very young age, and they take them away, and you never really got that side of Obi-Wan. I thought that was a really nice moment to get that from Obi-Wan. I really enjoyed that a lot. And as these stormtroopers get in to, there's these moments of them, it's there. You could also take this scene where he's talking and the guy goes, "You said Leia." Like, "Oh, I mean Lana, whatever, or Luna, whatever." And he played it off really well. Obi-Wan's always been a good liar, certain point of view. But I thought that scene was great because what it ultimately leads to what happens as we get closer. This is a great. I mean, some of the shots really enjoyed, but this was the scene I was talking about before with Obi-Wan talking about Padme to Leia. I thought it was, again, a sweet moment. So it ultimately leads to this because you think that they're out of the woods and they're not. And this mole rat says, "Hey, guys, I got hands on my nose. So I can scratch your nose, but before I do that, I'm going to let you know that these guys are a little suspicious. So go check them out." Probe droid comes in. Loved this scene. And you knew it's going down. Plus the fact that you've seen the trailer, you knew that this is probably the part where he does this. He blasts away. And Obi-Wan, for someone who doesn't like the blaster, he's pretty good with it. And this, how about this? When the stormtrooper falls into the lasers and cuts himself in half. And that's why, for people who were worried that it was going to be too kiddish, there's some pretty brutal stuff in this episode in particular. Now, yay, he gets hit in the head. And there's no more bad alien voice. He's done. Obi-Wan clunks him on the head. And he's really good with the blaster because young Leia's taken. He takes the stormtrooper out. Now, the thing that, this was another moment, as I said, there are two particular things that I didn't necessarily like in the episode. And one was the Zach Braff, if that was indeed Zach Braff, talking normal. And then this scene, not that I didn't like the scene itself, but a girl comes in from Rome, Game of Thrones, and the second she walks out, I'm like, oh, the second she walks out, you're like, oh, she's the contact. She's they're gonna General Hux this moment here, and she does exactly that. I just thought it was very predictable, but the second she walked out, like, oh, she's gonna help. There was in no world did I think she was an Imperial. I don't know if you guys did, but it seemed pretty predictable. Very minor gripe, but that was really where my gripe ends because once she gets, because it did add to her story about what she's doing and how she's working on the inside. And basically, hey, why didn't you just wait? And then we get back to the Inquisitors who are just trying to figure out that, hey, he's there. You were right. He is there. Now we got to go cause some stuff. Let's tell Vader. It's like, yep, already told Vader. And now I love this battle between the two of them because it's like, who's going to win out? I mean, ultimately, we know who's going to win out. In this series, it could end with Reva getting favor, but first of all, I don't think she's going to survive. Second of all, I think she's going to wind up. It seemed pretty clear by the end of this that the cliche trope of her turning good, I think, is another thing we need to just accept. It seems to be, you talk about telegraphed, especially what happens at the end that we'll get into, but pretty telegraphed. That's exactly what's going to happen. And you go for the ride at this point. But I do like the dynamic that these two have because they're beefing, and they're beefing hard. And we get back to Obi-Wan, have the conversation about why don't you stick around? He's like, oh, impatience, man. The relationship that Leia has with the droids, I think, is so consistent, obviously, with her character that we see later on with the older Leia, the way that she's always been with droids throughout the entire saga. But it also played into, you start thinking about it more, that this is Anakin's daughter and the gift that he had with droids. So I thought that was, I really like the way that they're playing her. And I think this little girl is so good and she's so adorable. And I think she's great as Leia. I really do. She's one of my favorite parts in this show so far. And as we have this droid, who also, this Lou Ferrigno droid, I call him, he's pretty, you can tell he's pretty chill, but he's ready to clonk people over the head with like pipes and stuff later on down the line. This is what, wait a minute. I got to talk about this. This was one where I went, this is for canon junkies. This is for people who Clone Wars and other things. As they're going through this I guess like I don't know what the hell it is. The people scribbling on the wall. But while they're doing it, the Jedi that come through and that they give them refugee, and he looks up and he goes, Quinlan's been here. And I'm like, Quinlan Vos? He's like, yeah, he comes in and helps people out. I'm, all right, so we get confirmation that Quinlan Vos is alive. For people who are not Clone Wars or Rebels fans, Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, he mentions Quinlan Vos in episode 3 to Anakin at one point. He said that he's out kind of doing some stuff. And then Vos is part of one of my favorite novels, Dark Disciple, where he had a battle with the dark side himself, but he came out the other side of it. And he's been going through some stuff. My question is, I'm not gonna, from hearing his voice, hearing his name that he survived, I don't think that this means, for people who heard Quinlan Vos and people who are big Quinlan Vos fans, I don't necessarily think that this means he's going to appear in this series. I hope he does, but I don't think it's something that's definitely going to happen. Remember, we only have 3 episodes left of this series, so to fit him into it, I don't know. What it does mean, though, is if they start this, as they said very clearly at Star Wars Celebration and other things, that they're starting to make this shared universe within, whether it's the Mando era, and maybe they do some more stuff here. And again, they had also mentioned that there's a potential of Obi-Wan Season 2. So I think that there's something that you could do with Quinlan Vos down the road. And now that you see the ratings that this show is getting, and after this episode, if 1 and 2 did the numbers that they did, I can't even imagine what this episode did. I can't even imagine. But anyway, so Quinlan Vos indeed mentioned inside of this, which I thought was, I loved it. I definitely geeked out on that one when he said, Quinlan's been here. And this is what I was talking about. My man with the Ferrigno droid is ready to crack skulls. He's got a big pipe in his hand, and this dummy's trying to mess with him. And I love that. Yeah, he can't understand you. He's just a docking droid or whatever the hell. Then we start to hear, this is where it gets, as they're trying to find this pilot and they're trying to get Leia off the planet. Obi-Wan senses something, and the dynamic here, as this is the only time thus far, and again, why I think that this is why we need to let this whole series play out before we start judging someone on 2 episodes overall. Look at Reva in this particular shot. Long gone is the, I'm not doing what I'm told. I'm gonna always kind of come off the line and give my thoughts when I need it to happen, no matter who it is. Not with Vader. She knows, because she's trying to get in favor with Vader. She's smart. She says, nope, I'm gonna chill. And the 2 of them both get in the line and wait, and there he is. And this scene, holy crap! Like, they were when he came in. When he comes in, you're like, okay, well, what kind of viciousness are they going to show Vader? Are they just going to, like, have him, knock over some plants and go find Obi-Wan and fight him in the desert? He's killing people left and right, snapping necks. And they said, this is a vicious Vader. I was taking screenshots of this thing this morning. My 4-year-old, there was no sound on it. There was no sound. My 4-year-old saw Vader walking through. She buried her head into my shoulder, and she said, scary. Yeah, he is, kid. We're laying all sunshine and rainbows. Nice parenting. So chokes out this dude with the condom hat, breaks a neck. What a shot that is. Look at that shot. Oh, look at that shot. Vader is just, this reminded me of Tyson coming into the ring back when he was, in his prime. And he's just, look at that, bodies everywhere, on the floor, screaming, yelling. He just wants Kenobi. And Kenobi's like, get the hell out of here. And for a lot of different reasons, obviously. Big reason is keep her safe, but another reason is he might sense that it's your pops. And he doesn't want to tell her that, obviously. Get the hell out of there. And Vader, back to Vader. And the way that I thought they just gave a nice, perfect blend of Vader and how it worked out and on everything he was kind of going into. So as and then this, stay. He said, don't do anything. Now this is where we go back to. Now she knows Vader's on his hunt. Well, I'm not going to let this moron tell me what I'm doing. I'm going to get in favor because it's between me and you, pal. It's on. And here's this shot that we have seen in the posters. Again, a great moment because as Obi-Wan is walking through, and this is not the Obi-Wan. He said it many times. This is not the Obi-Wan that we know from the prequels. This Obi-Wan is not battle tested. I mean, excuse me, I shouldn't say battle tested, but he's not battle ready. He's not battle ready. And he knows it. As he walks up and Vader is ready to go. Vader's been killing fools for the last 10 years. He's ready. He's like, you want to do this? Let's get it. It ain't gonna be like last time. No high ground this time, hump face. And Obi-Wan just goes, yeah, okay, I'm gonna run away now. And he takes off. Smart move. And it had a very Empire Strikes Back feel to it, where the kind of the back and forth of, all right, Leia's trying to get away. Here's Obi-Wan just being hunted down in the same way that Vader was hunting down Luke. And when he sees him and he says to him, he goes, what have you become? And he says to him, I am what you made me. Great moment. Again, fantastic dialogue from or the sound from James Earl Jones and the way that they made it sound. It's like I was never taken out of it. I mean, there were a couple times, like when I watch Rogue One, which I love, and I watch Rebels, I am taken out of it a little bit because I can notice the difference in the age. I could not tell at all in this. They were clearly aware of it, and they did it very well. Because Vader is just on a hunt. And speaking of that, and this is where I think we get more into Reva and what she's going into. And back to Vader. Vader's just overpowering Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan can't do anything. He's trying. He's got this lightsaber, and he's just getting smacked around. And this is a sweet shot of the two of them. And, I'll tell you what I was missing. I was missing, which I don't understand why, and I'd love to get an answer to it. I mean, we might never get an answer to it. John Williams did the theme to Obi-Wan. And they clearly have the rights to all of the music. In Rebels, Kevin Kiner used a lot of the themes and especially used the Imperial theme when Vader showed up. I thought it would have been a lot more devastating if went dun 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 dun. It was like, oh man, that would have been. I was missing that theme. It's the same thing they kind of, I think, missed a little bit when they didn't have Luke do it. I think we missed out when Vader didn't do it. So that being said, this shot itself is extraordinary. It's got that feel for sure. And then we go back, and now, even though she made the promise to Obi-Wan, she said, like, all right, I'll go save him. I'm gonna go help him out. You got it. You get to the pilot, and let's do it. I'll help. And Vader's one-handed at this point. He's just, there's nothing that Obi-Wan can do. And I think that there's got to be, there's going to be two battles, obviously. There has to be. There has to be a second battle. But this is the shot where I was always convinced that she's going to turn, but even more so now. Something happens where, like that shot, look at her eyes. She sees something in there. She sees something that she's reading. This is clearly one of the Padawans that we saw in the beginning of the episode, or excuse me, the first episode. So, and then she gets mad, but there's something going on here, and this is ultimately going to be whatever the reveal is going to be. This is her story, and I think that again, as they play into it, we understand that this is a redemption story at this point. Again, you cannot like it. I certainly am tired of the trope, but what are you going to do? So you accept it. Because clearly in her eyes right there, that does not look like an evil person right there. That looks like somebody for a moment drops that shield and something else is in there, which is why I give, I think this is why this is Moses Ingram's best episode thus far. You read a lot in her eyes right there of what's happening when she sees that. There's deep meaning inside of what she's seeing, and then she gets pissed off about it. But we jump back to Kenobi trying. He's just trying, and at this point, Vader's just fed up with it. Picks him up in the air, and this was horrifying. This was just like fire starter stuff. throws the dude. Now, how he doesn't burn his face, I have no idea. But he throws him fire resistant, whatever. But look at that shot. Just dumps him into the fire, and he there is not a morsel of goodness in Vader at this point. He's just like, yeah, your excruciating pain is like starting right now, and it's probably gonna happen for a while. I'm gonna murder you slowly and watch you die. So enjoy it. And then look, I mean, he's enjoying this. What a scene! That's like Michael Myers type stuff right there. And I loved what they did there. And then here she goes. She's up there. And what is the character's name? Is it I wonder if it's what's her face from Fallen Order, her mom. I wonder. Iden Versa's mom. I don't know, maybe not. But either way, she's out there and she's sniping fools. And this was, again, reminded me very much so of the original trilogy on how this was shot, where there was these moments sometimes where Vader would be in whether it was Empire or in Episode 4 when the door's shut on him, he's right there. He can't walk through it. It's more of that realistic, not realistic, but I guess so. In the prequels, they could leap and jump and fly, and even in Episode 2 of this one, where Ingram's jumping over buildings and doing all that, Vader's like, it's fire. I'm not walking through fire. It's all right. You might get away. She saves him. She's like, let's get the hell out of here. And then there's the big reveal at the end where Moses Ingram or Reva rather kidnaps Leia, takes her away. Now, I think that's going to ultimately lead to more discovery of whatever the hell happens, where she's not getting back to Alderaan anytime soon. And so I think that Reva's going to use this as a piece of discovery and other things that she finds out. It's going to be more now and it's probably going to be Leia that also helps the turn with Reva, with conversations that she has with her. If I was to guess, she probably has flashbacks and memories of her as a kid and all these other things, and who knows. So this is, I mean, there's only 4, 5, and 6, only 3 episodes left. So if you're gonna redeem her, you got to start to make that turn now. And I think this was the first glimpse of it. Love this episode. Absolutely loved it. I've already watched it twice, and I'll watch it again. This is some of the best Star Wars stuff we've gotten in a bit, and it's always going to be that conversation. Well, when people say that some of the best Star Wars stuff we ever got in Boba Fett, the best stuff we ever got was Luke. In this stuff we get Vader, but this is a different thing because of the fact that this is a Obi-Wan series, and we were waiting for Vader, and we're waiting for the first kind of performance of him and Hayden, and how it all plays out and what he was going to sound like, and all of that delivered. That was one of the main things everyone was looking for. How is Vader going to deliver? Is Vader going to live up to the Vader expectations as he always does? And I'm waiting to see the comments, but I'm going to guess that most of you in here were pretty ecstatic about seeing Hayden as Vader and the walk and the voice and all of that. I think a lot of us maybe I'm wrong. I feel like a lot of us were missing the Imperial theme. Maybe I'm wrong. So much. Look, we're doing a Sith Council spoiler discussion too, but as we do every Wednesday, I'm going to get mine out there. I'm going to try to get them out a little earlier than I did today. Just had a couple things come up in the morning, so putting this up as soon as possible, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, the like and share, all that stuff. We got some Sith Council shirts. Those are up there. Definitely have those up there if you didn't know that already. And by the way, some other shirts. Look at that. Look at all these shirts that we have there. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do that. I want to thank you guys so very much for joining me on this episode 3 spoiler discussion of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll see you on the flip side, homie.